Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Port Richards Cafe, Plano Senior Residential Care Homes, ATD Painting, and Performance Food Group. Port Richards Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Port Richards Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. This podcast is also brought to you by Plano Senior Residential Care Homes, senior care at its best with a family atmosphere. They specialize in making their facilities as close to a home living experience as possible. Not only that, there are no move-in fees and there are no visitation restrictions. They are located near I-635 and Marsh Lane in Dallas, right near Carrollton. For more information, you can call 469-400-7650. That is Plano Senior Residential Care Homes. And now, let's podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Brian Murphy and Kendrick Johnson. And gentlemen, let's talk some high school football. We are now to the point in the season where we have 3 weeks to go in the regular season, and I think we can officially kind of declare this part the home stretch of the high school football season. It's the part of the year when we'll maybe have to start looking a little bit closer at tiebreakers, seeing what needs to happen for certain teams to get to where they need to go. So naturally, with it being the home stretch, I want to devote this podcast to basically laying out one question. Who are the most interesting teams that we cover heading into the home stretch, as far as teams that have the most at stake over these next few weeks, the teams that could potentially shake up the playoff picture the most? So we're going to go through the entire staff, and we're just going to lay out a couple teams from our necks of the woods that have basically a ton to play for over these next few weeks. Kendrick, we've been covering District 9-6A all season, and sure enough, whereas last week we were talking about
Mess Express, that is 9-6A.
That's a great way to put it, the Hot Mess Express. Whereas last week we devoted a lot of time to talking about the log jam in District 6-6A out in Louisville ISD. 9-6A is caught right up because now as we head into 3 weeks left, yes, we have a four-way tie for third place. So you have Allen, which is all alone in first place, doing the Allen thing.
Looking down at
everybody else. Then you got Prosper, which is now second place, 3-1.
Props to them. I saw them play on Friday. Was impressed with their line. They got some hosses up front, and they Boyd outplayed in the first half, but second half they went old school smash mouth football. That line that Wayne Anderson took over, I saw what he was all about. He had 230 and 3 tubs, busting them. He had 170 in the second half alone,
leading the district in rushing also.
He had 170 and a half.
Top 5 in the area, I believe, Wayne Anderson out of Prosper. So after Friday's games, we now have a four-way tie, I should say, for third place out of District 9-6A with Plano East, Plano Senior, McKinney, and McKinney Boyd. So Kendrick, I imagine that's a good place to start. Just talk a bit about one of the teams that you cover that is a very, very fascinating home stretch.
That's an easy one. That'd be the Boyd Broncos. They have quarterback situation. You never know who's going to play. They play both, but you don't know what situation. I seen them play. I couldn't tell you this guy's going to play this one. They're both talented guys, but it's one of those things like it's kind of hard to win with two quarterbacks, but they're in the mix. At the end of the day, I think because their defense is still young, they have a potential to be really good. They show flashes. Like the first half, they held Prosper to under 150 total yards. The second half, they gave up 310. So that's kind of a good definition of what Boyd's about. But can they beat Plano next week at MISD Stadium? I want to say I told you at the beginning of the year, whoever win that game,
you did, yes.
It's go get that fourth spot. It's almost like clear as day. And then the main thing, I don't know what you think about this is, what do you think about teams that seem like they can't play a full game? I know it's like almost 9-6 game I see one team takes over a half and it's like nobody, and then they don't show up, or they don't, like they were non-existent. They show up in the second half. It's like what were you doing?
I think this just might be symptomatic to a district where there's just a ton of parity, and we're just seeing results that just completely you just have to kind of expect that you're going to see some games that kind of buck convention. And I think that in a district like that where the teams are just so evenly matched, consistency is just going to be really tough to come by for everybody, just because the teams are, with the exception of the top dog at the very, it feels like anybody else, can beat anybody else in this district, so to speak.
And then flipping gears to 5A, my other team, shout out to McKinney North Bulldogs. They held their business 52-37. A lot of people didn't think they could beat West Mesquite because West Mesquite have a lot of individual athletes. I picked them. I believe in y'all Bulldog Nation.
I picked them as well.
No more emails. But now now it comes to the meat of their schedule. They have the two people to think the A and B teams of the district, and John Tyler. They got to travel way out to East Texas, and Tyler Rose to 903. Good luck with all that. And then they come back and they got to take on Poteet, who people are picking to win this district. But the key is they got the 3 wins in their pocket. They had an unexcusable loss to Sherman, so it's going to see if that's going to come back to them, because they had a game that everything could go wrong. So it's going to be really weird. They win one of these next 2, they get in. They could already be in, but it's a lot of rolling the dice where you could be anywhere from 3rd seed to be watching like me and you on that first week of the playoffs.
McKinney North has been the bane of the picket line for me this year.
You've never picked them?
I have. I think I picked them to beat McKinney in week 1, and outside of that, I know I misfired on their game against Wakeland. I know I misfired on their game against Texas High, and I picked. It was that stinking Sherman game that just threw me off the scent entirely with them. I still have no way in hindsight how to make heads or tails of just how that game happened when you look at just how great North has looked since then.
And their offense is very explosive. They put up 90. The last 3 weeks they put up 90, 40, and 52.
90 points. That's insane.
Yeah. And the thing is, they can hit you. They got 2 quarterbacks, but they each have a role. Dylan Markowitz, he comes in, he's gonna throw it, he's gonna hit you deep. Cam Constantine gonna hit you with the read option and can hit you underneath. Now they're starting to get big. Brandon Frazier, one of the best tight ends in the state. He's had over 140 yards in the last 2 games combined and 4 tubs. So they're starting to get it in.
One team with 2 quarterbacks. Another team that's gone through 2 quarterbacks is Little Elm. They started Juan Ponce at the beginning of the year, senior, after Logan Kohler announced that he was just going to play baseball. And now they're going with a freshman the last 2 games, and it's been working out.
Wow.
They beat Wakeland.
They have a run
They
game?
beat Liberty. John Mateer coming in at quarterback. He's done a great job so far as just a freshman. And, they're in a log jam in District 5-5A with Wakeland, with Independence. They're all 3 2-2, fighting for those last 2 playoff spots in the district. Little Elm's case to make a playoff spot gets interesting. They play Independence this week. Then they play Heritage the week after that. A winnable game there. Heritage has obviously struggled this season. And then they play the Colony, a team they beat last year on a crazy, I think it was 14-7.
Is that considered a rivalry game?
They'll say it's a rivalry game. I mean, the Colony looks really good. I mean,
they look great.
The hook and ladder play from last week was phenomenal. If y'all hadn't seen it, check it out. It's on my Twitter. It's everywhere. At Brian Murphy _. It went viral. It had like 16,000 views or something.
My take is, what was the end zone? I couldn't blame my man for running to it. He ran to the wall, literally.
So many people were replying to that tweet saying, "What is this? This is high school football in Texas, and you're playing it at a soccer field. What is it?" Well, in their defense, it's FC Dallas's stadium. They played 2 days later. A concert was held the next day too. Toyota Stadium had a lot on their plate. But anyways, that was a crazy game. You can see in the video, there's no hash marks, there's no yard marks.
No.
It was weird, but
you wonder if Miles Price knew when to stop running.
No, he kept running until he hit the back of the end zone, because it looked like that was where based off where the soccer lines were and whatnot. But so going back to that district, the Colony obviously is gonna in the driver's seat to win that district, and then you have Independence, Wakeland, Little Elm, all 2-2. It's going to be really interesting. Thursday's game between Little Elm and Independence is going to be huge, and we'll see if John Mateer can keep it up. Freshman quarterback running the show.
That's wild. I mean, that is a lot to put on the plate of a team, especially because we all know how important the quarterback position is. So when you make a change that thrusts a 9th grader into that spotlight, I mean, you wonder, just how, if he even envisioned coming into the season, if he was going to be asked, with this much responsibility.
Coach Brown said he had been practicing with the team. After he practiced with the freshman or JV team or whichever it was, he would get some work, a little bit with the varsity. So Coach Brown had him on his radar. It's not like, all right, there's a freshman. He's tall, he can throw. Come on. I think he kind of had him on his radar. I didn't think he expected to play him. Because they were high on Juan Ponce. Coming into the season, he did really well in 7-on-7 over the summer. Really, really well. Led them to state for the first time in school history, but just wasn't working out. Too many turnovers, and the team has really rallied around Mateer. There's no issues with Mateer coming in. He's done a good job as a 9th grader.
Speaking on the radar, I'll be remiss not to throw in Hunter Shea. Check him out. He'll be the subject of this week's Sunday Spotlight. The kid, I've said it multiple times, don't look like he's gonna do nothing until he run right by you. He's got 6 tubs over 50 yards and against 5 different teams. Wow. Every week he strikes, and it's like boom. This week he had a career high 219 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he splits time with Manny Fincher, who's a junior. He's got like 680 yards himself and 8 touchdowns. So they took 2 people to fill in the Lamar Lucas, but it's a more efficient because they're on pace to have 2,000-yard rushers. So I didn't see that coming. So Coach Fetching, then once again they pull that rabbit. They find somebody to get that running game. That's very efficient.
Offense has never been the issue at McKinney North. Never. They've always got the horses.
But this year their defense will make adjustments that are very noticeable. Like the second half this week, the score was 38-23, and if it wasn't for a trash touchdown on the final drive, they would have shut down West Mesquite. So this year they're making adjustments and responding to the coaching, so you're not having those 56-49 games on a weekly basis that you saw last year in that the Colony district with Little Elm and all them. Yeah, like remember the Lamar Lucas game 2 years ago?
Ran wild on the Lobos.
You and Kendrick, you had mentioned McKinney Boyd and that game against Plano in early November being a very pivotal game in District 9-6A. And it's funny because if we had asked the same question after non-district, then it might have been a different story. But nevertheless, Boyd is indeed righted the ship, and they are right there in that mix for one of those playoff spots out of 9-6A. Same for the team that I'm picking for this. I alluded earlier on, Plano Senior. I mean, how can you not be just fascinated with what Plano Senior has done? I mean, you might not find 2 more mismatched performances in consecutive weeks than what Plano has done these past 2 games. I mean,
were you at both of them?
I was actually I was at the one that they almost got shut out by McKinney. They Plano lost to McKinney 17-7 2 weeks ago, and that at that time you're just thinking again Plano, your 3rd straight loss to McKinney, a McKinney team that was winless at the time, and was replacing its massive senior class from last year. You didn't have to worry about the Matt Gaddick boogeyman coming back to get you or anything like that. And
that'd be Plano East.
Yeah. And so I still remember just talking to Coach McCall afterwards, and just Plano as a team just looked like shell shock. Like they did not think for a second that they were going to walk in and lose that game after their bye week. But then they turned right around this past week, and then they, out of nowhere, just beat the brakes off of a Plano East team.
No one expected that, did they?
I thought it was a bit spot. I'm like, is that flipped? Or I was looking into the game cast on Friday night.
And they, you look at, what some of the numbers that they put up against McKinney, rushing only 136 yards as a team. They didn't have a running back eclipse 50 yards rushing in that game, and we've talked at length about how explosive that backfield has been.
Cummings of McKinney, even the games they lost. So he never did beat McKinney in his career.
Yeah.
But the
Strange.
2, I know his junior and sophomore year, he had at least 1 touchdown. I was like, whoa, that's how I knew who he was. Yeah. So that's crazy. They eliminated the whoa play. They still beat him.
They had really struggled to get their running game going and establishing that aspect of their offense, which is paramount if you're Plano Senior and you have that kind of talent in your backfield. So heading into a game against a Plano East team that you'd expect, the simple-minded sports media narrative for this one was that, Plano's going to come in pissed off after getting doubled up by Allen, and they're just going to take all their anger out on a Plano Senior team that just looked kind of like helpless after losing to McKinney, and that narrative was nonsense apparently, because Plano just, they ran away with this one. This was a game, they held Plano East. Think of Plano East offense and just all that they've done this season. They did not score until the 4th quarter of that game. They shut them out for 3 quarters. This game was 27-0 after 3 quarters in favor of Plano.
Do you think anybody's hurt or anything? Because you know about the injury reports.
With the rain, was it, the field? Or?
The only injury that Taylor Ragland was the one covering this game, and I know that Plano East, one of their starting defensive tackles, Jalen Brown, was out. But outside of that, it sounds like they were relatively healthy. Both sides were relatively healthy for this one, at least to the point where it's nothing that would throw sure, that explains why they won 41-19. The rain wasn't as, I was asking Taylor that too, because you'd think in the rain, okay, a team that's more ground based like Plano, they're able to maybe a bit better suited to play in the rain versus a team like East, which is a bit reliant on the passing game a bit more. But no, it sounded like the weather was there was some rain, but it was nothing that would just completely completely just rock the foundation of this Plano East offense. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, Plano's defense, despite the struggles that they had running the ball, Plano's defense has been great in recent weeks. They held McKinney to, I don't even think McKinney cleared 150 yards of offense in that game. I mean, Plano's defense has been up to the challenge for the bulk of this season, and they looked the part again against East. I mean, Brandon Mallory came into this game having thrown just 4 interceptions all season. They picked him off 3 times.
Wow.
They picked him off 3 times.
It might be that North and Sherman outlier.
They held Trey Jones Scott in the run game to just 2.5 yards per carry, 34 yards total on the ground for Plano East in that game. And then by the other end, Plano's run game woke up. Kyron Cumby had 15 carries for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was their leading receiver with 4 catches, 46 yards and a touchdown.
That's the Kyron Cumby I know.
Tylen Hines, who's their sophomore running back, he had a big game too with almost 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. It was the Plano that fans have known. I said last week, like, there is a playoff team somewhere buried within Plano Senior. They have the ability. It's all there. It's just whether or not they can just be consistent enough, week in, week out with those performances. Because I mean, the Plano team that showed up on Friday, that's a team that is good enough to make the playoffs. Obviously, if you're able to hang 41 and beat a Plano East team that again looked like the second best team in this district for much of the season. If you're able to pull off a result like that, then I mean, what a massive lift that had to have been for the entire program just to get back on track to play the kind of football that there have been inklings that they're capable of, but just to finally put it all together and have that playoff caliber performance. And it came at a big time, because if you're just talking about teams that have fascinating home stretches, here's Plano's last 3 games. They host Jesuit Friday at Clark Stadium. Then, as we alluded to, Kendrick, they're at McKinney ISD Stadium to play McKinney Boyd on November 2nd, and then they close out on November 9th, Clark Stadium, 7 o'clock against Prosper. All 3 of those teams are in contention for a playoff spot. So, I mean, there is no let up. You've already, Plano's already got the Allen game out of the way. They've already got the West game out of the way. So that big gray middle area of District 9-6A, and that is all that Plano has left. So it's not going to get any easier, and they have to find a way to now maintain the consistency that they showed Friday against East.
Yeah, it's basically come down. For y'all don't know, I got a little restaurant. I sell high L's and cold dubs. They gonna have to get some dubs. 2 to get in. I'm putting it down. They get 2 wins, they get in.
Because they're 2 and 2. Yeah, 2 and 2. It seems like 4 is kind of the sweet spot if you want to get in. But I mean, in this district, you could have 3 teams that wind up with 4 wins. I'm sure there's probably a scenario where that can happen. You got to start invoking tiebreakers. But in order to put yourself in that position, then you got to.
Prosper and Plano East played.
They have. Plano East won that game, 26-14. So
okay, so Plano's got 2 wins.
Plano East has 2 wins. Yeah. So Prosper's 3-1. The thing is, Prosper still has to play Allen, so they could drop back into the pack with the outcome of that game, depending on what goes on there. But yeah, man, the Plano Wildcats, buckle up. Going to be a fun home stretch for the Wildcats, man. So we shall see. But yeah, what a wild game that was at Kimbrough, apparently. And that's let's see. Did you have one more team that you wanted to touch on, Brian? In addition to Lowell?
Celina's an interesting little spot right now.
Okay.
They're in 4th place in the district. I don't think anyone expected that. They lost to Parrish. They lost to Melissa. They still have to play Argyle. They have a big game this week against Anna. Who knows, if they lose that game, they're in trouble for missing the playoffs for the first time in a million years.
In eternity.
Yeah, but I don't expect them to lose to Anna, but on the radar, Celina is not, running away with the district crown like they normally are year in and year out. So we'll see how that plays out there.
Obviously, plenty of other teams, whether it be out in the Denton County area or out in East Dallas County that have plenty at stake, and we will bring in Justin Thomas and Devin Hassan to talk a bit about those teams. Let's take a quick break to talk about ATD Painting. Whether it's painting, staining, carpentry, residential, commercial, interior, or exterior, ATD Painting has you covered. They have 4 locations in the Metroplex, including Plano and Louisville. You can call 972-694-8888 for more information, or you can visit their website at atdpainting.com. That is ATD Painting. Check it out to see just how affordable professional painting can be. And now, let's get back to the podcast. In the meantime, Justin Thomas, Devin Hassan have joined the round table. So, gentlemen, let's keep on going with some interesting teams heading into the home stretch. Devin, we got a team out in Mesquite that's got a chance to pull off something that all season long. I know the roadmap to this point of the year for Mesquite Horn has been anything but expected, but nevertheless, man, a fascinating home stretch for the Jaguars could potentially be in store.
And I feel like a broken record because I keep saying, wait till Horn turns it around, wait till Horn turns it around. And you look at their record now, they're 0-7. Coming off a bye week last week. And again, as we've talked about before, they played really good teams.
Yeah.
You look at their opponents, their combined record is 44-5.
Wow.
For their 7 opponents, yes. They've just played heavyweights, and the front of their district schedule was top heavy with playing Longview, playing Rockwall, and what's turned out to be a very good Mesquite team.
Yeah.
That they lost on a last-second field goal. I still think that they have the tools there to make a run. Jermaine Gibbons, their outstanding quarterback, who was a district MVP last year, Asias Taylor. Those two are among the top rushers in the district. The passing game hasn't quite come along the way we thought it would, but there still is potential there. Their defense has been good at times. Again, facing these high-powered offenses, it's kind of hard to tell. But Kendrick Blackshire, their outstanding sophomore, who's already got offers from everywhere. He was a starter as a freshman. Quavon Grant, Larry Cooper, Nick Garcia, Larry Donnell. They're playmakers on there. But the big thing for Horn in terms of getting back to the playoffs, again, 0-7, 0-3 in district.
Got to win a game.
They're just going to start winning. But if you look at their schedule, the 3 teams left in their schedule, they have Rockwall Heath on Friday, they have North Mesquite, and they have Tyler Lee. Well, if you look at the top of this district, Longview is undefeated, Rockwall is 3-1, Mesquite's 3-1. It would take something pretty crazy for those 3 teams not to make it. Rockwall Heath is 1-3, North Mesquite is 1-2, Tyler Lee is 1-2. If Horn runs the table against those 3 teams, they're in. They would own the tiebreaker advantage over all 3 of their main contenders or competitors for that final playoff spot. And so it's crazy to think that a team that's 0-7 controls its own destiny, but that's exactly what Horn does. The schedule lines up favorably down the stretch, and I expect Horn to win those last 3 games and Horn to be in the playoffs at 3-7.
The optics of a 3-7 team making the playoffs is just that breaks my brain a little bit.
Yeah, it's a 17 district, so you only have 6 district games. Again, they played a murderer's row. On their 4 non-district games. Allen is undefeated, Highland Park is undefeated, Cedar Hill has 1 loss, and Arlington's undefeated. That was a non-district slate. Wow. So they're certainly battle-tested, and again, I think Horn wins those last 3, and they're in the playoffs.
Wow, that would be wild. Justin, let's go to you for one of the most interesting teams in your neck of the woods.
Well, I'm going to go with the opposite direction. I'll pick a team that's won some games so far. A lot of choices in my markets, a lot of talking points on many teams, especially with how tight these districts are. But we'll start with Flower Mound. How about
the Jaguars, man?
Unbeaten.
Who saw this coming?
Not me. Coming into the year, I thought they were, I picked them as a playoff team, and I kind of waffled a little bit before district started, but definitely didn't see them at 4-0 in first place in the district this far into the season. So props to the Jaguars coming off their big 38-35 win over Hebron on Friday to get to 4-0 district. They're the only unbeaten team in District 6-6A right now. Saw some outlets reporting that they had clinched a playoff spot after that win, but as far as I can tell, that's not the case.
That sent you down a wild goose chase on Friday night.
Just ran out one scenario where it definitely looks like they wouldn't make it if they lose out, but they're in a great spot, 4-0. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, and that win over Hebron on Friday was their first win over Hebron since 2009. So not only a 4-0 start, but doing some things they haven't done in a while. So a lot of excitement and optimism over there in Flower Mound right now. But I said they're not in yet. They probably have the toughest schedule left of anybody in 6-6A. For those who don't know, so they're 4-0. Then you have Louisville and Coppell at 3-1. And then you have Marcus and Hebron and MacArthur all still fighting for the playoffs at 2-2. Flower Mound still has 3 of those teams left. They have the big Mound showdown this week at Marcus. Then they have to go to Coppell, and then they close up at home against MacArthur. So a great spot for Flower Mound, but they still have some work to do to get into the playoffs, at least the way I look at it.
When you saw this game on Friday against Hebron, what was the most impressive aspect of how Flower Mound was able to put together that win? A win that, if we're just going off the those numbskulls on the picket line, none of us thought that was going to happen.
I would just say their offense. Like, I saw them. The first time I saw them was the first week of district against Louisville. They got shut out in the first half. They were playing a different quarterback. They brought their original starter, Blake Short, back in at halftime. He picked it up, but they had to have some fluky things happen. They were down 27-7 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter and came back and won that game by 8 points. But the offense has taken off since then. Since being shut out that first half, they put up 35 in the second half. They put up 62 against Irving. They put up 53 against Irving Nimitz, and then they put up 38 last week against Hebron. And the thing that impressed me was not only Blake Short just throwing darts. He threw for 355 yards and 5 touchdowns, but they also had Pierce Hudgens nearly got 200 yards. I think he had 178 yards rushing. So they were moving the ball in all facets, and this offense is just really clicking right now.
There's let's see, I mentioned Plano Senior in the last part of the podcast as far as a team with a fascinating home stretch. Another team that's kind of fits that bill out in District 7-5A Division 2. I'm just fascinated to see what happens with Lovejoy over these last few weeks, because we talked about, with Mesquite Horn, how top heavy that district schedule was. It's been the exact opposite for Lovejoy. I mean, they've played nothing but they started off against nothing but just the kind of the, I don't know if say the cream puffs of the district, but their first their district schedule was 74-13 over Frisco Memorial, 48-17 over Denton Braswell, 56-15 over Lebanon Trail. Then finally they ran into an actual test and they got shut out by Frisco Reedy. But Frisco Reedy might be they might be the best team in that region. Who knows? Frisco Reedy's playing incredible football, so that's it's really tough to extrapolate a whole lot from that game. Then now, they took care of Princeton 49-6. Princeton, a much more respectable team than some of those teams they played earlier, but still a team that's going to finish outside of the playoff mix. These last 3 games for them are fascinating because they get Lake Dallas at home on Friday. Lake Dallas, a team that at the start of the year was thought to be kind of some debate as to whether or not Lovejoy or Lake Dallas was the second best team in that district. And then they turn right around and then they'll go to Denison team that throttled Frisco last week. They look like they're in position to take that last playoff spot, and then they close against Frisco, which we know how devastating that wing T can be. Frisco's already sprung an impressive upset of Lake Dallas this season, so they're definitely capable of getting to that to a level that puts them in position to take down playoff caliber teams. So it's kind of the opposite of Mesquite Horn, whereas we get to see Mesquite Horn can finally breathe a little bit. Now we get to see if Lovejoy has if they are the second best team in this district, because certainly the results beforehand would lend in that direction. They've got one of the more balanced offenses that you'll see behind Carson Collins, their quarterback, who is almost 1,300 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, no interceptions already at this point. We are 7 games into the season. He has not thrown a pick. Jahi Rainey, their standout running back, is averaging 6.5 yards per carry. The receiving corps is balanced behind Jacob Terwilliger, Bo Ivanelli, Luke Mayfield. They've got a lot of ways they can beat you, but again, it's just doing so against that upper tier opposition that's kind of unproven to this point.
And experience. Those names, those were all key guys in their push last year. Remember when they were 0-5, and then they made that late season surge. So these are guys who've been through the wars. They know what it takes to make that playoff push, and I think that's going to be a big advantage to them going forward as well.
Yeah, I think that they're a playoff team out of that district for sure, but it's a matter of if they're the second best team in the district, which there's plenty of credence to think that. You just got to now show it against teams it's tough to you really haven't seen a game yet where you can be like, okay, I know that Lovejoy is a great team. I feel like the results odds. The Frisco Reedy result was a bit funky just as far as how lopsided that one was, but I think that just might be more of an indication of how great Reedy is playing right now. So we'll see. Yeah, lots left. That's fascinating on the Lovejoy schedule. Devin, let's get one more team in your neck of the woods with a fascinating home stretch.
I'm looking at West Mesquite. This is I mentioned Horn being battle tested. West Mesquite is, people to kind of overlook their schedule. They open with Hutto. Around these parts, not many people pay attention to Hutto. Yeah, and Hutto is state ranked, and they destroyed Cedar Park last week.
Wow.
That's a very good team that they opened the season with, and West Mesquite hung with them. They played Denton Ryan. They've already played John Tyler. They're sitting at 1-2 in district, and they could very well be 1-3 this week. They have a very tough challenge with a crosstown rivalry game against Poteet. I just think that West Mesquite has the personnel on offense to score with anybody. That hasn't been the issue. Ty Jordan is one of the best running backs in the area. He averages nearly 8 yards a carry. Neil Johnson, who's actually more of a tight end wide receiver prospect in terms of colleges is their quarterback, and he's done a solid job. When you got a guy like Dylan Wright to throw to, the Texas A&M commitment, and they've got some other good weapons on the outside. I think even if they lose to Poteet this week, and I'm not saying that West Mesquite can't win that game. I think you have to give Poteet the edge right now. They've won 6 straight, and they seem to be on a collision course with John Tyler for that district championship. But West Mesquite closes with Sherman and Texas High. Texas High team that we thought would be a playoff contender. That's just completely.
Thought that might be the second best team in the district.
But that Sherman game is going to be is the key one.
Yes.
Because that Sherman team is just befuddled everybody with that win over McKinney North when they just crushed McKinney North. I
haven't picked a McKinney North game right since then.
I don't think I've picked a McKinney North game right in 4 years. So dating back to the last time they played West Mesquite in the playoffs back in the day. But what's really interesting in that McKinney North beats West Mesquite last week 52-37. And West Mesquite scored a touchdown with 22 seconds left that you think, it's meaningless, has no bearing in the game. Well, the tiebreaker rule in that district is 17-point cap. So Sherman hit the cap against McKinney North. So they had the plus 17. That put their cap down to 15 in that game. So if West Mesquite goes out there, and I think they match up really well with Sherman. I saw Sherman play Poteet, and they're methodical. I'm still baffled how they put up 59 against McKinney North, but McKinney North does give up share of points as well. But if West Mesquite's able to control that game like I think they can, and they're going to have that number in their head, and when it all comes down to it, if they can beat Sherman by 17 or more, that one little late, insignificant touchdown against McKinney North with 22 seconds left could be the difference between West Mesquite going into the playoffs and McKinney North staying home.
Wow.
Now, they still have to take care of business, obviously. That Sherman team is not going to roll over. They picked up another big win last week against Texas High. And then Texas High, I think, is still a dangerous team. You can't just overlook them and write that off as an automatic win.
They almost beat McKinney North. That was a close game.
Shout
out to Jerry Stanford, former Marcus coach there.
Isn't Greg Miller the DC there?
DC there,
Yeah, a lot of local ties. So, it's just the road is not clear. West Mesquite still has a lot of work to do, but I still think there'd be a factor. And again, I just, if you don't think about this stuff in week 8, that some last second score, but I know those coaches are thinking about it. They have those tiebreakers ingrained in their mind, and they know that every point counts, and it could be something that seems insignificant to the fans at the time, but it could turn out to be a huge difference at season's end.
Justin, let's round this out with a look at one more team with a fascinating home stretch in your neck of the woods.
Well, I could pick any of these 6-6A teams, any of the 4 teams I cover left, and really, there's plenty of intrigue for all of them. But man, I still have the Colony on my mind after that.
How can you not, man?
Really,
what a win! What a performance!
Who would have thought when Keith Miller made the one-handed catch that landed it on the Sports Center that it wouldn't be the biggest highlight from their regular season? But I think that one's been overtaken by this crazy hook and ladder to win the game. But big win for the Colony to kind of take control of the district race, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how they kind of this was one they lost to Lone Star in the playoffs last year, so they had this game circled. Huge win, puts them in the driver's seat for the district title, but they still have a pretty challenging home stretch here. They have Wakeland, Independence. Both of those teams are fighting for playoff spots. And then they close with their rival Little Elm, who they lost to last year. So this district championship isn't locked up yet. They still have 3 tough games left. They have to stay focused. And then I'm also really intrigued looking to the playoffs and potential by-district playoff rounds, because they're going to match up with that district with Highland Park and Lancaster and Mansfield.
Right.
So
the 5A district of death.
5A district brutal. Of death. So the Colony could be putting together maybe their best season of all time, and then they could have maybe they're going to have a challenging first-round playoff game regardless how them and Lone Star in this district finishes up and what divisions that other district end up aligning in. So that's going to be really interesting to watch for me, is how these playoff scenarios might play out during these last 3 weeks.
Did ESPN come calling at all for the Lone Star Colony finish?
Not to me. Maybe they hit up Brian since he was covering it and had the video, but no, I haven't heard anything about that. But
because certainly, I guess, obviously, I don't know if you kind of just were to put the Keith Miller play versus that one. I think the more significant one was the hook and ladder, just because it's a freaking hook and ladder, and then it was enough to. It was the game-winning touchdown against a top. Was Lone Star still? Were they still top 10 in the state?
Yeah, they were 6th last week, I believe.
So
and then it's called Bronco, and it was kind of patterned after that Boise State play, and then you watch the Boise State play, and they're like, the plays are so similar. It's crazy, like from where they took place and everything. So.
I remember. Trust me. So I remember.
Better memory.
So I'm just gonna try to get out there and talk to those guys about that play today because that was crazy.
Yeah, what a performance by the Colony. So and that is a look at some teams that are we have deemed the most interesting heading into these final few weeks of the season, the home stretch, as I'm officially dubbing it. So and that will do it for this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. Shout out to Justin, to Devin, to Brian, to Kendrick, everybody else who helped out on this one. Folks, you enjoy your week, and we will talk to y'all later. Thanks for checking out this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast, brought to you by Performance Food Group. Performance Food Group delivers more than 150,000 food and related products to customers all across the country. If you want to get in on that process, PFG just might have a spot for you. Their McKinney office is currently hiring. Job openings include Class A CDL drivers and warehouse order selectors, as well as many other entry and part-time positions. An ideal choice for college students or people just wanting to find new careers in general. For more information, you can visit their website at pfgc.com/careers for more job openings. If you prefer to contact them by phone, you can call at 214-491-3130 for more details. Once again, that is Performance Food Group, located in McKinney at 500 Metro Park Drive.